There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. It is Tuesday evening, not Wednesday evening. Typically, we do Region Weather Live Sunday and Wednesday evenings, but we're rushing this one ahead because of the severe weather threat coming our way tomorrow. So, hello, everyone. I'm Region Weather Meteorologist Matt Wintz. Good to be with you this evening. I'm going to take you through exactly what we can expect tomorrow. We've got the latest model runs coming in right now, so we can go through those, kind of analyze them. As always, a lot of you have questions. I've been getting a lot of private messages today asking about timing and events and kind of what I think in terms of opinions on, if kids should go to this, or if this should be canceled. So we'll try to answer all that. But as always, at the end, you can ask questions. We'll go through all that. We'll spend some time. JD, I see your comment. Snowing tomorrow. No, not yet, my friend. But that is in the forecast in the extended. I do not want to get into that. Not quite yet. All right. We want to thank our sponsors. We've got a lot of new sponsors on board. Guys, I vet our sponsors. They are all local family-owned businesses, and I have conversations with each of them. A lot of them are like family to me now. A lot of our sponsors have been with us for over 2 years. So I'm telling you, I put my name behind all these people and all these businesses. They're all local family-owned right here in Northwest Indiana. So let me get through those real quick. If you need to grab a drink of water and load up, I saw someone is playing Saints Row while listening. Doctor, I appreciate that. Whatever gets you by, I appreciate that. I want to start. We've got some new sponsors. Great Lakes Lighting. When first impressions mean everything, make your home the envy of the neighborhood with expertly placed outdoor lighting to accent your home's architecture. Our products and services not only help to transform your home's appearance, but also enhances safety and security for your outdoor spaces. Great Lakes Lighting has been doing lighting in Northwest Indiana for quite some time, and they do an amazing job. Check out their webpage. It's lightupnwi.com for more information there. We also have our tree removal service. A lot of you have used them this week, and I'll tell you, you might be using them again. If you need a tree removed that either fell or perhaps it's in a dangerous area with power lines, whatever it is, T&T Tree Service does just that for you. When it comes to tree removal, experience matters. T&T Tree Service out of Valparaiso is a family-owned company specializing in dangerous removals using modern equipment. They do storm damage, emergency takedowns, all of that. They handle complex jobs efficiently and safely, and they specialize in insurance claims as well. They work directly with your provider to make the process seamless, and no money is collected at time and service. Again, T&T Tree Service, they serve Northwest Indiana with excellence. Call today or visit TT Tree Service. So that's 3 T's in a row, tttreeservice.com. We've got a new roofing company with us as well, Romans Roofing. They're out of the Hobart area. They serve all of Northwest Indiana, though. If you have any roof damage or anything like that, they also handle insurance, storm restoration options. They do retail roofs as well, siding, windows, and gutters. All inspections and estimates are free. RomansRoofing.net, or you can call 219-838-9111. Kate Cusack for Ruoff Mortgage is our local lender for all your mortgage needs. She's been serving Northwest Indiana and making people happy for a long time here in the region as well. She says that the spring buying season, she's an expert on it, but it's really picking up here with the warmer weather. So if you're looking for a new home, or perhaps you're looking for a dream home or first starter home, you want to make sure you're ready to go with your pre-approval, she can get just that for you. It's Kate Cusack Home Loan Girl on Facebook. You can reach out to her there or call her at 219-775-6645. PSA, that's our public service adjusters here in the region. It's publicserviceadjusting.com. A lot of you have used them and raved about them. If you have an insurance claim, go to them first instead of your insurance company. They will be the go-between between you and that insurance company where you don't have to deal with anything. Publicserviceadjusting.com. FBIbuildings.com. They're doing pole barn construction. They've done over 20,000 of them in the Midwest. If you have a pole barn, whether it be commercial or residential, they will take care of that, whether it be renovation or fixing it up, storm damage included. FBIbuildings.com. Minogue.life. Minogue.life is our, sorry, I'm seeing something that my child is doing down below. We'll explain that in a second. Minogue.life, Michael Minogue's been working the world of Medicare, Medicaid, life insurance for decades around here, and he has a no-cost consultation. If you signed up for a plan a long time ago and you don't know what you're digging in terms of benefits and all that stuff, he'll help sort that out. There's no two plans that are alike. Michael knows that, and he'll help you sort out what your benefits are. Maybe you're not getting enough benefits, or you're not using them, or maybe you're paying too much for life insurance. Minogue.life, the place to go there. Finally, we've got tigerplumbing.net, our area plumber. They are just wonderful. They come out for free, which is rare. And they also can do everything on mobile. So you can take a video of it, send it to your plumber, and they'll know exactly what the problem is before they come on out. Tigerplumbing.net. Finally, Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Valparaiso. They've got a brand new Wagoneer, which looks really, really nice. Have yet to drive it. It would fit our kids, that's for sure. But if you're in the market for a new Jeep, or Chrysler Dodge Jeep or Ram, Grieger's in Route 30 there in Valparaiso would certainly help you out. All right, let's get to our early birds here. We'll jump into the broadcast. Thank you guys for letting me get through those. Our sponsors keep the show for free. Again, software, advertising, all this stuff costs money, and they keep it for free, which is great. A lot of places charge for this. We do not. All right, so let's dive into the forecast, shall we? Big area of low pressure out towards the western U.S. is just now getting going. You can see on satellite, we've had the increase in clouds. We started with sunshine. It was very promising today, and then we brought in these high clouds. These high clouds are off of that system, that jet stream now getting involved. There are storms erupting in areas of the central plain states right now. These will go severe as we go throughout the evening hours, and we're going to watch those move in tomorrow morning and overnight, frankly, but the warm front doesn't get here until tomorrow morning with some of those storms. So this is what you've been seeing all over social media throughout the day today. The Storm Prediction Center upgraded that risk to a moderate risk, which is a 4 out of 5 for areas downstate. Here in Northwest Indiana, we are still in the enhanced category, which is 3 out of 5. You guys that have been with me long enough know how I feel about these. I don't like lines on it. You got to draw them somewhere. But a lot of people focus so much on this and they say, well, I'm not in enhanced, I'm in the slight, or do we not have a big deal with this or not? Again, this is just a forecast, but what I want you to look at when you look at this, instead of racking your brain over it and going crazy, is the trend, right? Where is the bullseye for the strongest potential for tornadoes and severe weather, and where is it not? And you notice how that bullseye is down towards Memphis and areas of Kentucky. That's where the strongest dynamics are in terms of atmospheric shear. They'll have dew points riding in the mid to upper 60s down there. And overall, they've got an atmosphere with that shear and the amount of lift present and the amount of cape that's going to produce likely some tornadoes as those storms develop tomorrow. For us here locally, we're still under the enhanced risk, okay? What does enhanced mean? It just means what I put out earlier. We're expecting numerous severe storms tomorrow in and around Northwest Indiana, okay? And that threat does include a couple things. Here's your tornado risk. This is nothing to slack about. Again, the highest risk is down towards the south, where there's a hatch 10 to 15% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of any point downstate. So Indianapolis down towards Evansville, Memphis, as I mentioned, even getting into Nashville, Louisville, all those areas have a big threat for tornadoes with some of these thunderstorms tomorrow. We've got a lesser threat, but still there tomorrow with our tremendous amount of shear. Our main threat tomorrow is going to be much like what we just dealt with on Sunday. It's going to be for the threat of damaging winds. The atmosphere is structured to produce damaging winds again tomorrow. We've got a jet stream that's going to be hauling above us. So you get these storms that develop up into that. It'll pull that strong wind that's up in the clouds down to the surface at times. And I mean, we just dealt with 70 to 90 mile per hour winds in some of these storms on Sunday evening. And Valparaiso, you know what I'm talking about. We have the potential, at least, to do that all over again. But things do look a little bit different with this, and we'll get into those differences in just a second. But damaging winds are going to be your primary risk. And then there's a hail risk as well. I had a couple of you message me about you want a new roof. And so I get it. Hail is certainly on the table tomorrow. Some of that could be on the larger side as well. We've got some colder air aloft, and it certainly will produce some hail in some of those more robust thunderstorms, okay? So those are the threats. That's kind of the big picture view. Now let's dive into the details in terms of this. And I'm going to start with a couple high-res models. Remember, when we look at models, if you're not familiar with kind of how this works in terms of looking at weather models, and this is all free to the public, you can peruse these and look through these all day. I don't want to put too much stock into these. So again, we look at trend when it comes to models as well. So when you're looking at these are not truth, all right? And too many people and a lot of those meteorology sites that you see online with the kids that are, you know, doing their own thing on YouTube and stuff like that, which is great, but they just look at this and they think it's truth and they preach it like it's truth. It's not. Things change and these models are wrong, but sometimes they're not wrong by much, all right? And our job as meteorologists is to go in and say, that doesn't look right. Or my experience, you know, forecasting next to Lake Michigan for 15 years tells me that Lake Michigan does this and these storms won't do that. The models aren't true. So let's keep that in mind when we look at it in terms of timing and strength and kind of where these storms develop. I'll show you the models. I'll give you my take on it, and then we'll go through and kind of analyze what I think is right and wrong with these, okay? And more importantly, we're going to get you timeline and impacts with these storms. So here we go. Here's what happens tonight. We see storms erupt, superstorms that are supercells that develop. They will be superstorms out in areas of Nebraska and Kansas and Oklahoma. That's as that leading edge of energy feeds into the warm, humid air that's coming up out of the Gulf. We're not there yet. We had kind of a cooler day today, right? But things are going to change tomorrow, as you'll see. So those storms erupt. We ourselves will get a round of some rain and rumbles overnight. I'm not anticipating much in terms of severe weather overnight, but it is going to turn kind of stormy around here. We're going to have downpours from time to time. You'll probably be awakened by some thunder overnight as well. I don't want you to go to bed tonight and worry about a tornado threat overnight. All right, there's not a tornado threat tonight. This front coming through tonight is the warm front, and those of you that have been with me at Region Weather long enough know what warm fronts do. Warm fronts are all elevated. They're not rooted down to the surface, and so you've got warm air that's way up high in the sky, and that's where all the energy is and all the electricity and all that good stuff. But warm fronts can do a couple things. They produce a lot of lightning, so we may have good lightning shows with some of this tonight. So don't be surprised if in the middle of the night or tomorrow morning for that rush hour that we've got a lot of lightning, all right? That does not mean we have a super intense severe thunderstorm with tornado capability, okay? It's not structured that way up above us. They also produce hail. Those of you that want a new roof, all right, from hail insurance claims, that hail chance, we've got one tonight as this moves into tomorrow. So if we do have severe storms, or if we do pop a severe thunderstorm warning tonight or tomorrow morning, it would likely be for hail. I'm not seeing too much of a damaging wind risk tonight. Heavy rain, lightning, and hail are going to be your primary risks, okay? So that severe threat, the big one in terms of the tornadoes and things we're really worried about, big damaging winds, that does not move in tonight. All right, so warm front's moving through. So there you go. The HER, again, not truth, but this is one of our solutions that we're looking at, brings a good batch of rain through here tomorrow morning. This is 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Notice how it's then heading out of here, but we have a ton of rain lingering just off towards our north or even clipping the area where the rain leaves, and then we got more downpours that just pop over us, and then they head out, and then more downpours pop. All of this to say that it's going to be really tough to clear out at all tomorrow. Someone, I forgot who I was talking to, a private message, we were asking about in terms of how Sunday went, and this system's different than Sunday. Sunday, I guess someone was forecasting a lot of rain in the morning, and the big deal was if it cleared out or not, and we didn't get that rain in the morning, all right? And then we had the round in the afternoon. I wasn't worried about rain in the morning on Sunday. That situation was a little bit different. We had showers around, but it wasn't like this. This one's different in that we've got a better chance of keeping that instability down tomorrow with repeated rounds of rain throughout the morning hours. But the thing kind of counteracting that is the fact that the dynamics and kind of the ingredients that are south of this warm front tomorrow are to me, they're much more conducive to severe weather, so that once we get that surge, we'll rebound to levels that we were at on Sunday, if that makes sense. So basically, I know a lot of you that are weather junkies are worried about the rain hanging around tomorrow and saying, well, if it rains all day, we're not going to become unstable. We're not going to have big storms here locally. All right. That's not the case tomorrow. All right. It's just not. And the reason why is there is a surge of higher dew point air and some instability that's going to surge in here regardless of if we have rain or not. And that's going to be out ahead of that main line. So all this to say, for those that don't follow the weather and don't care about all those numbers and all that and the dynamics and all that to say is we still have a severe threat tomorrow, regardless of if it's raining through noon, 1 o'clock, okay? So keep that in mind, because this system has a good flow that's going to come up in here tomorrow for that severe thunderstorm chance. So the rain finally gets out of here. This is now late morning. Notice how it's still kind of hanging out. Here is where we start to clear that atmosphere up with just a few showers around. The bulk of the energy is going to be up here in Michigan from the lift, from the warm front portion of it. And then what we're watching is right here back towards Illinois, western Illinois. This is early afternoon tomorrow. Back here's your actual frontal boundary. All right, so we've still got some time once this big shield of rain and storms clears from the morning hours, and it might not be over us locally all morning. It'll be just off towards the north, though, and that would slow down our instability. But once that clears, I feel like the instability comes flying in. Our shear is going to be off the charts tomorrow, which is turning of wind with height. We also have spin shear as well, or directional shear and speed shear. But notice what's going to happen. Here comes the frontal boundary punching into that air mass, and the HRRR is depicting, really, it's been doing this over the last couple model runs, two lines of storms, all right? And this initial line gets going down here where they've had longer time to kind of destabilize, and they've got higher amounts of energy, right? That's where that big severe threat is. So the HRRR develops a line early afternoon down towards Missouri, and then on the jet stream and on that northeast propagation, that movement of it, it brings that line through, our southern counties. I don't want to get too specific because this isn't truth. It's just a solution, a possible solution, but notice how that comes in. That line would carry a severe weather threat. If this happened and if this developed like this tomorrow early afternoon, we would likely get a good rain shield off of that, which may limit what happens with line number 2. We'll see. But then line number 2 comes in, and that, with this first line, if that steals all the energy, line number 2 wouldn't be much of a deal, and we'd escape it without much of anything tomorrow. I mean, we'd have heavy rain, we'd have some storms around, but we would thread the needle tomorrow here in northwest Indiana. Again, this is just one model solution, does not mean it's truth. So what I'll be keeping my eye on tomorrow is we need the big chunk of rain to clear out, first of all. But number 2, where do these storms develop? If they start developing down towards our south, and we don't see much development out towards our west early afternoon tomorrow, then the southern stuff is going to get organized, but there's going to be a rain shield on the northern end of that. And we want the rain shield because that keeps the bigger storms down to the south, and it helps to stabilize kind of the northern line or the northern part of wherever that line goes. So that's going to be crucial, what develops tomorrow and where. Another solution, I'll show you the NAM nest. All right, this is the latest run of this. The NAM nest brings the showers and thunderstorms through tonight, heavy rain, perhaps some hail and lightning. The NAM nest clears us out a lot better. Notice it's got that clearing all the way up into southern Wisconsin, and then it develops this line of supercells right here out towards the west. They're not huge, but all of these would have spin with it, especially right along that boundary, and it moves through those through here tomorrow afternoon without developing this stuff in Missouri first, all right? Notice how this develops first out in Iowa and areas of western Illinois. So that being said, in my mind as a meteorologist, I'm keeping a close eye like a hawk tomorrow on where these storms develop. Do they fire in Missouri first and start to make their way in our direction, or do they fire to the west first and then develop down in Missouri? That makes a big difference for how tomorrow plays out here locally. But you can see the NAM nest brings those storms through. This is later tomorrow afternoon, so we're looking at any time after lunch through about the 7-8 o'clock hour, and the Weather Service called for that as well, and I agree with that. There's a little bit slower arrival to this, so that afternoon window is wide open where we could pop storms at any time. And the other thing to note about these storms tomorrow is that it's not going to be a one and done. Sometimes, we get a cold front and there's a line and it moves through. In my mind, we're going to have, and I mentioned to Ryan Cusack, who's on here, I mentioned to him, it's going to be like, in my mind, it's going to be like whack-a-mole tomorrow. It's going to be like whack-a-storm. So, storms will pop at times, and some of them may be severe. Then we might get another line after that. Just things that we're going to need to watch tomorrow as we go throughout the day. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm watching for tomorrow. What you need to take away from this is anytime after lunchtime. I would say lunchtime through late afternoon and early evening. And as always, we'll let you know when we're clear. All right, when there's not a threat for severe weather anymore. You should know because we'll probably get some kind of round of storms. But this is not a guarantee. It really isn't, especially if this HRRR solution verifies, where we get storms, maybe in our southern counties, and then we get another round here, but this round would fade as this one kind of steals the show. So, but the HRRR's been different every single run. It really has, and I would expect it to be, because this is an extremely complex forecast for even a computer model to run, because it's chaotic. The atmosphere is so chaotic tomorrow, where if something pops in one spot, it's going to throw everything else off in the atmosphere. And so these models are trying to determine where a storm's going to pop, which is extremely difficult and nearly impossible to do to begin with. And then it's basing everything else off of that. So keep in mind, there's a lot of room for error here. But the things that we know are that the atmosphere is going to be structured tomorrow to be capable of producing damaging wind, hail, and yes, we could have some tornadoes. Although that threat is higher south, we can't rule that out here locally. All right. In terms of rainfall, heavy rain is going to be another issue with this. Here's just a model's take. Wherever these storms end up going, we'll see over an inch of rain. All right, and it's going to come down in a hurry. We've got high precipitable water values tomorrow. All right, so that's what we're dealing with tomorrow. In terms of my schedule tomorrow, obviously I do the morning show, so I'll be doing that. We'll catch a nap, and then I'll be on storm duty all day tomorrow. So if anything goes severe, we're going to pop on. We're going to do live coverage here on our Facebook and our YouTube channel. So just make sure you're plugged in. Again, I don't do this for likes. I don't do it for follows. I could care less about that. I really could. I'm not like some of these, my goodness, they drive me nuts, but some of these weather sites online that are popping up like whack-a-moles, you talk about that. These kids are getting so, I watched a broadcast last night, just a piece of it. It popped up in my feed. These kids are so arrogant. They're just like, oh my gosh, I hit this many followers and blah. Are you in it for the weather? Or are you in it for the followers? The reason why I care about who follows our page is because I want to reach more residents of Northwest Indiana in regards to keeping you safe during severe weather. And those that have been with me through all the years of tracking severe storms through the region, we've had a lot of late nights together, and we've had a lot of days where you've had questions, and we've helped to calm things down because stuff is so blown up online, and I don't want you to feel hype from me. Okay, that's the big thing. I care about your safety, and I hope it shows, and that's it. All right, I've got a day job, all right, that I love, and I love going to work every single day. I do this out of fun and for a hobby, all right, to keep you guys safe. So I just want you to know that, all right. I don't want you to feel hype or the fact that I need you to follow or anything like that. Okay, I never want you to feel that way. But just make sure you're plugged in so that if we do go live, you have a source tomorrow that you can turn to that's going to walk you through these storms. Okay. All right, you guys are like family to me. You know that. There's a lot of you that have been with me since my days at Lakeshore Public Television. So I remember some of the pictures that you guys used to send. So good memories. All right. As we always do in the broadcast, if you care about the severe weather tomorrow, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Okay. Again, we'll have coverage. We'll have some more posts throughout the day tomorrow as well. I'm going to take it to what we normally do on Region Weather Live on Wednesday nights and Sundays, and I'm going to take us through the next 10 to 15 days. Okay. Let's look long term. We're done talking about the severe weather tomorrow. We've got to get through it. But beyond that, there's another concern I've got coming later this week into the weekend with heavy rain and flood potential. We also have a pattern change next week, which I do not like, but I have to share it with you because I'm the messenger. So there's that. Side note, real quick, it is April Fool's Day, and I'm not playing any jokes on broadcast tonight. Did any of you throw them in the chat? I've got chat pulled up here. Throw them in the chat if you have them. We'll answer questions at the end too if you have them. But throw them in the chat if you got pranked today and what happened, because I need some ideas for coworkers next year. I didn't have any ideas. We did a segment on the news this morning about ways to prank your kids safely. And so I'll share those with you real quick, then we'll jump into this because I don't always want to talk weather. All right. I'm kind of tired of talking weather sometimes. So anyway, on the news this morning, we did a segment, and you get a Dunkin' Donuts box or a donut box from anywhere, and you fill it with vegetables. Have you guys seen that one? And so I did that this morning, and I brought it home to the kids. We've got 4 kids, and 2 are in school, 2 are at home because they're just young. And I brought it home to the 2, and I was like, I brought donuts from work because sometimes I do. And they're like, oh, they got so excited. And then I open it, and they both laughed, which is great. I thought they'd be upset, and I'd have to, give them a hug or whatever. But that's a good prank. And then the other one, if you've got teenagers or older kids, and I'm not sure how this works too well. Mary, happy birthday! I forgot it was your birthday today. Happy birthday to you! Absolutely. But anyway, the other one is you download, you get their phone away from them, which is tough to do enough. This is teenagers, and you download or you save a picture of a cracked phone screen on there. There's some really high res ones that look real, and then you add it as their background on there. And so next time they see their phone, as long as they don't have notifications on it, they'll see a cracked screen, and you know how that goes. It's the end of their world. So those are some good pranks that we had as well. That's awesome. Mallory said my class got a pan of brownies. Awesome. They love them. That's great. That doesn't sound like a prank though. All right. Okay, so let's dive into long-term, then we'll answer your severe weather questions. I don't want to waste your time, but I do have stories every now and then. All right, so this system goes through, okay, and then we turn on Thursday cooler but not colder. That's the other thing about this system that's kind of weird is the front goes through, but there's no punch of cold air behind it. We kind of stay mild on Thursday as this front stalls down to the south. In the springtime, actually any time of the year, but in the springtime especially, you don't want a front to stall, because when fronts stall, especially in the spring, you have Gulf moisture that's coming north, and it's meeting up with cold air, and you get that boundary to stick, and you get rounds and rounds of storms that produce heavy rain wherever that boundary is. And this boundary is going to get stuck all the way through the weekend. So watch how this evolves. Front goes by. We still have mild air on Thursday. We'll likely see some showers return, perhaps in our southern counties Thursday afternoon as another wave moves along this front. That wave kicks the front a little bit further south. So on into Friday, we're dry, and then it reloads with a new area of low pressure down towards Arkansas on Friday afternoon into Friday night. So what that does, front goes by, kind of stalls, then heads south, and then it's going to come back to the north. This same front is going to come back to the north Friday evening, and that brings us some rain in here. All right, that rain could be heavy. We could have thunder with it as well. I'm not looking at a severe potential on Friday. I'm looking at more a heavy rain event where we could get a soaking rain around here. And unfortunately, it looks to coincide with your Friday evening plans. So I know we're all severe weather focused right now, which we should be, but jump ahead real quick with me mentally and go towards what you're doing this weekend. So Friday night looks soggy. All right, we're going to have some rain and storms around here. That front hangs out in the vicinity on Saturday, but Saturday during the day, a new low pressure will be developing. So we might see the showers kind of back down for a little bit Saturday before they return. Saturday night, we'll be on the northern end of this. Don't see a severe threat either, but it will be rainy Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. Right now, that's what it looks like. And then Sunday, we get some lingering showers, but now colder air is working in. And here's your pattern shift. We get a chunk of cold Arctic air. I just personally, and I can be honest with you, sometimes on TV you have to kind of, fake it like, oh, look at this. You can't give opinions. I can give opinions on here. This makes me miserable because it's this time of year, you get these teases of warm air, and then all of a sudden Mother Nature just throws cold air at you and it snows again. We do average a little bit of snow in the month of April. Well, this is maybe where we get it. Monday into Tuesday, cold air comes across the Great Lakes. There'll be a system. We'll likely have snow showers flying around next Monday, April 7th. All right. Yuck. And then dry air comes in. We stop that. Still chilly on Tuesday. Wednesday, we start to warm. Thursday, we start to warm. And then all indication is right when we're warming up for next weekend, this is the following weekend, the 12th and the 13th, the Euro continues to pinpoint a big upper level low that swings down out of Canada. This thing sits across the Great Lakes in the Northeast. And these are the stubborn things that we get in May. I mean, look at this low. It just wraps up and keeps wrapping up for like a 5-day period. These are the things that we get in May when everyone else is 85 and we're like 50. This is going to happen as it looks right now next weekend and the beginning of the following week. And bottom line, it's going to keep us on the, I don't want to say cold, but chilly side. We're just going to prevent us from warming up. So a lot of the trees and things that are trying to bud right now are going to be put on pause for a little bit, which is actually good for our pollen and our allergies. We're not going to be having huge allergy levels like they did down in Atlanta. I don't know if you saw over the weekend. Atlanta said I think it's been 25 years they've been keeping pollen records there, so not too long on the scale things. But they had their highest pollen count in the ATL in 25 years. Their oldest high was like 9,000, whatever that means, and their new one was 14,000. They can draw on cars. They've got so much. It's mainly pine trees because I used to be a meteorologist down in Georgia, and the pine just puts out incredible amounts of allergy. But anyway, the good news is we got these warm hits, and the trees kind of come out. Some of the pollen comes out as well, plants and all that. And it's not all from flowers, stuff you don't see out in advance of that budding. But when we get this chilly air that we're going to have next couple of weeks, it kind of stops that. And so then when it comes out next time, some of it's already been released. And so that's the only good thing I can think about it is that our pollen levels are going to stay relatively tame throughout the next 2 weeks. Here's your rainfall. Again, that's a big concern. Euro, GFS. GFS is a little bit more confined with this. The GEM, the Canadian model that I look at, has it widespread. But we're looking at anywhere from 2 to 3 inches across northwest Indiana. This is through Sunday, all right? And that heavy rain, again, comes mainly this weekend and from the system that comes in tomorrow. So bye-bye drought, all right? We still have moderate drought across a good portion of the state. I think we're going to kick this to the curb. We may have the D0 range down towards Indianapolis, but I think we're going to lose the drought here locally. So this rain, if we have to stay positive, which we'll try to do, this rain is going to be great in terms of our forecast here for area farmers and stuff like that. I might be too much in a hurry, but we'll see. All right. So in terms of the cold air, I just want to show you temperatures, and then we'll get back to your questions. All right, we'll throw that on there. Cold air comes from a trough. Here's your feed. This is why it's so wet and why we're going to have so much flooding. I mean, we're talking 6 to 10, maybe even more inches of rain down towards Memphis, areas of Kentucky, Tennessee. There's going to be some bad flooding down there this weekend. And the reason why, look at this deep flow. Pacific moisture comes in, Gulf moisture comes in, and all of it just sits. Look how this trough just sits. Same pattern. Nothing moves for several days this weekend with a stubborn high off the Florida coast. And then eventually it gets kicked out, but it gets kicked out for this upper level low. So what goes up in the west, that's where the warm is, must come down in the east. This is where the chilly air is. So we are looking at cooler air setting up for kind of a long-term period, at least a week, maybe a week and a half or so. So temperatures do this. This is just a model, again, not truth. But notice how we're nice and mild next couple days with some humidity around. Then we come down into the 40s, maybe even 30s into next week briefly. And then it's got a little bump here before we come back down again. But you get the idea. We're not looking too warm here overall over the next 10 to 15 days. Okay, so there's that. All right, so let's take you back to, I'm going to take us back to the HER run. The newest one's in. I don't think this gets all the way through tomorrow. But you can see there's your rain. Yeah, it doesn't get through tomorrow. We need the 0Z to come in a couple hours, and it will. But overall, again, storms tomorrow are going to be the primary concern and the primary thing we're talking about here. Okay? All right, go ahead, throw your questions into chat, and we'd be happy to answer those for you. And then we'll get you on your way tonight. Again, I don't want to waste your time. I know you've got dinner going on. You've got kids' homework, perhaps, if you've got kids. I know we've got the same thing. So don't want to waste your time. So you can check out if you want to. That's fine. But if you have questions, let's go ahead and answer those. And maybe someone has the question that you had. We'll see. All right, let's see. That's awesome. I'm seeing some of your April Fool's thing. There's that. So that's that. Okay. Yeah, Debbie says next weekend looks miserable. I've got outside stuff to do. I know, we do too. Debbie, my wife asked me, we've got like a lot of housework stuff to do, like outdoor stuff. And she's like, is next weekend nice? And I said, well, it's going to, and she asked me this like 5 days ago. I said, well, it's going to warm up finally. It's going to be warming up towards the weekend. And then this upper low comes in, like right when we're starting to warm up. So certainly has changed that. Kathy says, Matt, are storms that pop up generally more severe than storms that come with a front? Kathy, great question for sure. So storms that pop up, when you see, so there's two different ways to describe thunderstorms, and we'll see it tomorrow. Let me pause this so I can kind of show you what I mean. So let's go with this as an example here. So there's two different really modes of thunderstorms that we deal with frontal boundaries like this. There are the individual cells, so we call those cellular, or they're cells, all right? They're the little circles that you see, or the pop-ups that you're speaking of. And then there's the linear part, which is when it becomes a line. The cells, when they are cellular, right, when they're different circles on the map and they're little pops on that, kind of like we see here when it initially develops, couple up here. This is more linear down here, but you get the idea. Those pops kind of are living, breathing things on their own. They can do their own thing. Those storms aren't being influenced by anything else other than themselves and the atmosphere up above it. So yes, they can be the supercells that we talk about, or the dots on the radar. If the atmosphere is structured right, they can rotate. And that's where you typically get your tornadoes and your strong tornadoes, all right? The ones that stay on the ground for a long time, because again, they're doing their own thing. They're not being influenced by anything else. Once you get a line segment, that line segment is usually driven by really strong winds that continue to push that line in with lifting air on the front end of it. And that line segment is more capable of damaging winds and widespread damaging winds, kind of like what we saw on Sunday. We didn't have a lot of supercells. We had a line that moved through, or a chunk of storms that moved through, right? That chunk of storms has individual storms within it that produce pockets of damaging wind, but the whole structure as a whole is being influenced by every storm around it and by that structure as a whole. And there's usually some kind of driving influence that's pushing that line, whether it be a cold front, colder air, some kind of air mass change. So to answer your question, yeah, those supercells are the ones that can produce long-lived tornadoes, whereas the line can produce mainly damaging winds. But in our case on Sunday, and in our case most of the time, whenever we have a line moving in, or whenever anyone has a line moving in, you can get those little kinks that develop that we were tracking on radar. And so you can still get quick spin-up tornadoes within a line. They usually don't produce as much damage as the supercell tornadoes that form in those chunks. So really good stuff. I appreciate that. Savannah says, I started watching you March 31st, 23. I've been watching ever since. Thank you for no hype. Oh, that's super sweet. I appreciate that, Savannah. That's a great question as well. Do I expect the Hatch tornado risk to extend into Northwest Indiana? Savannah, I don't. I don't. And again, I don't want us to get caught up in semantics. The atmosphere can still produce tornadoes tomorrow, right? So it doesn't matter where the lines are. The lines just kind of point us towards where's the atmosphere going to be most conducive to produce tornadoes and where's it going to be less. So I don't want us to get caught up in that, hatched or not. We do have a tornado risk from anything that develops tomorrow. Does it mean we're going to have tornadoes? No. Does it mean that everyone sees severe weather? No. That's kind of how it went the other day, right? There were areas that didn't see a bad storm, whereas most of us did. So just so you know, that's kind of how it's going to go. Lori, I see your question on here, and I apologize, I can't get to all the questions, but I'm going to try to get the ones I see here as they move. Are these fast-moving storms? They will be tomorrow, Lori. Pretty similar to the last system. I expect them to move anywhere from 45 to 55 miles per hour. Storm motion is going to be from the west, southwest to the north, or to the east-northeast. So they're going to have a little bit more eastern push to it, but still having northeasterly in general. So there's that. Paul, thanks for joining us tonight. Guys, give Paul a follow. He does region news. I mean, he's tracking. Paul, you do so much. I don't know how you sleep, but he also does a lot of weather coverage, and he has some great footage of some of the damage from Sunday storms. And I know, Paul, you'll be working hard on it tomorrow. I would like you to address the STP models that so many hype pages are sharing here with the chart colors. My goodness. Yeah, here's the deal, guys. Social media is getting waterlogged with weather coverage now, okay? There's a lot of, and I was told that a lot of these schools where you get your degree at meteorology, and the specific one I'm speaking to is Penn State, they teach the kids how, and this is great for them, it's great for them, but it's saturating the market. And it's not just them, it's all over the board. And there's people, you know, there's other kids on YouTube, and like Ryan Hall, y'all, who does a great job. There's Max Velocity, which is another one. He does a great job too. But people want to be these $1 million follower weather folks. They're not meteorologists, but they're weather folks. You know, they study the weather. They know it pretty well. They can't usually explain why things are happening, but you don't need that. You need a forecast, right? And all these kids in the younger generation want to be like them because they're making millions, right? And so they create pages. And these pages, how do they get likes? How do they get follows? How do they make money? Well, they hype things up. If you see something that says, and I saw this, I'm not kidding, on a post that says, there's a 15% chance you're going to die in a storm tomorrow, and it had a big circled area. What? That's the stuff they're posting, and you're probably not seeing that extreme stuff, but you're seeing big, bright colors that say, whoa, or wow, or check this out. And then you click on it, and they get money when you do that. And they get money when you watch them and all that good stuff. And so that's a problem in the meteorology world, where you have to sort the hype from the not hype. And we've always said all along that we're not hype. I'll tell you how it is. If I'm worried about it, I'll tell you that. If it's not a big deal, we'll tell you that as well. And that's probably because my motivation is not for clicks or likes or follows, because I have a full-time day job as a meteorologist. All right. So I get the motivation's different. You know, everyone's got to eat, but just be careful what you're clicking on. Be careful who you're following. You know, and again, I don't say that for more followers specifically. I say that because this is information that's important, especially on days like this. And I don't want you to get anxiety and stress over these things. Go to bed tonight and don't worry about these storms tomorrow. All right. The one thing you can do for tomorrow is make sure you have a way to get warnings. All right. There are multiple ways to do that. We are one of them in terms of coverage. You have apps on your phone that can give you a warning based on your location. Make sure it's location-based. Weather radios are still around. They work. TV still works as well. As long as you have that, you're going to be prepared for it, all right? We get storms in spring, all right? We get setups like this, but these are just so much more blown up now, this day and age, with all of this social media, that I feel like I need to come on here sometimes and not just chat about it, which is great, but I have to come on here and talk people off the ledge sometimes, because this is Northwest Indiana weather. This is not atypical for this time of year. All right, this happens every single year. It's just getting blown out of proportion more and more. So I hope that makes sense. And sorry to go on a little tangent, but that's kind of what we're dealing with in the weather world right now. So there's that. Debbie says, amazed by the number of folks oblivious to Sunday storms got caught in them. Yeah, that's the problem. And Debbie, that's my motivation for getting to reach more people. And I promise I say that from a good position. I've said it enough that I don't care about likes, but please, if there are people that you know that do not follow region weather or someone that's credible here locally, please share it with them and please tell them that, hey, there's a credible source for knowledge where you can actually not be caught outside 90-mile-per-hour winds, okay? So there's that. Mike says, one of the ladies on the Weather Channel this morning said Northwest Indiana was guaranteed to see a tornado warning. I just thought that was wrong of her to say, yeah, it is. I mean, Mike, one of the things that gives it away in terms of the Weather Channel coverage is they're opening videos every half hour. They have super dramatic music, and they show all of the worst of weather. I have to take my kids away from it because I don't want them to think that storms are always scary. Storms are amazing, all right? The atmosphere is amazing. And I teach the kids in weather school, and I've said this before, that doctors and even you know the different parts of your body, right? We know where our heart is. We know where our ears are, stuff like that. And again, I do weather school visits from kindergartner up till 8th grade. But with the young ones, that's what I do. And meteorologists know the different parts of a thunderstorm. So just like when we were tracking coverage, again, most of you were plugged into the coverage we gave on Sunday. Remember that storm in Stark County? I said I would treat this like a tornado warning, and we were watching that area of rotation, and we were talking about the areas in the path of that. And that was before it was warned, and then it got warned, a tornado warned. We were like 6 or 7 minutes ahead of that warning. And I've done that multiple times in my career. And I don't say that as coming out of humble land, but I say that because you guys were plugged in, and meteorologists know the different parts of the storm as long as you have a good source. And that's, again, what you need to make sure you're kind of deciphering. If you have someone that's a good source that knows what they're talking about, or are they in it for the clicks and hyping things up, okay? Real long tangent. I'm so sorry for that. All right. Jenny says, what time will the storm hit Valparaiso? So, Jenny, we don't know the exact time these storms are going to hit. It's near impossible to forecast where the storms develop. The technology is not there because the atmosphere is chaotic, all right? But the window that I'm looking at tomorrow is we're going to get storms tonight. For those that just joined the broadcast or didn't hear the earlier part of it, we're going to have storms that move in tonight. These storms I'm not expecting to be severe. It's with a warm front. Warm fronts produce hail and lightning. So there might be a lot of lightning tonight at times in spots, not for everyone. And there might be some hail tonight in spots, not for everyone. All right, in addition to heavy rain. I'm not worried about the tornado threat tonight. The atmosphere is not structured to produce tornadoes. It's a warm front. Everything's elevated tonight, all right? And temperatures aren't going to be that warm. We're likely going to be in the 40s while these storms are hitting tonight. Kind of weird, right? And then tomorrow we'll get the surge of warmth. We'll get the surge of humidity as well. And I'm looking at a window, Jenny, of any time between noon, so lunchtime. When you're eating lunch, just know, okay, I need to be weather aware now. Anytime lunch through like 7 or 8, depending on how these storms evolve and how they develop, all right? So those are the windows that we need to watch for sure. Renee, I appreciate that. She says, I'm a new follower. Thanks, Paul Goddard. Renee, I appreciate that. And thank you, Paul. Again, you're all signed up here. Elijah, I appreciate that. That's so sweet. Let's see what Matt thinks. Well, listen, don't place too much trust in me, Elijah, but I do appreciate your comments. You're super sweet. All right, so let's see. Diane says, I had a caregiver call me Sunday about the weather in Indiana. She's afraid to go out with her climate I was on. Oh, that's so sweet. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you, Diane, for doing that. Ashley brings up a good question. Joni, I'll get to yours as well. Ashley says, thought on hail size and wind. So our wind, Ashley, is going to be capable tomorrow of doing what it did on Sunday. I see a fairly similar setup with the jet stream that's going to be hauling above us over 100 at times in that jet that's sweeping through. So sometimes it can bring that down to the surface. And so I could see gusts going 60 to 80 again tomorrow in the worst storms. It does not mean that everyone gets those storms tomorrow, okay? So just because it's capable of doing it doesn't mean it's going to do that. But we have to talk capabilities around here, okay? Joni says, how strong is the wind going to be tonight? So Joni, I don't see strong wind from the thunderstorms tonight. I see more of a hail lightning threat, but our overall wind is going to pick up tonight as that surface low ramps up. So I can show it to you here. Here's some of the model takes in terms of what our wind does. So notice that wind picking up overnight tonight. This is into tomorrow morning. This is just general wind on the order of 20 to 40 miles per hour. So it's going to be windy as this low develops and that warm air surges in. And then we're talking wind tomorrow just a big chunk of 30 to 40 mile per hour general surface winds tomorrow. This is a wind maker of a system. The other thing I want to show you is dew points. And I'll show you temperatures too. This is super fascinating. I was going to do a post after this on this, but look at the dry air right now. It's like January outside. You can zap yourself on things if you rub your feet on the carpet. That's how dry the air is. There's no moisture in the air right now. And then our warm front comes in tonight. Everything elevated. The reason why I don't see severe weather tonight, I mean, look at our dew points. They're still in the 30s and 40s. We can't get rooted to the surface severe storms with that. Everything's up in the sky, meaning tornado threats out of here, right? Just lightning and hail. And then tomorrow, look at this surge. We go from still dry tomorrow morning when you wake up to this surge of tropical air. You're going to know when the warm front goes through because you're going to feel it. It's going to go from not tropical at all, bone dry, to tropical. Once we're in that tropical air, that's when your weather aware needs to kick in, all right? Because the atmosphere and these storms will eat that for food, okay, so to speak. Again, weather school visits kind of blend into this when I say weird things like that. But there's your storms tomorrow. These dew points are much higher, not much, but a couple degrees higher than what we dealt with Sunday. So there is more fuel tomorrow. Again, if you missed top of the broadcast, I was talking about how this setup's different than Sunday because it is a little different. We're going to have a lot of rain around on radar early, but for those that follow weather, you're probably familiar with the fact that when there's rain around, we're not becoming unstable. It helps to stabilize the atmosphere. So a lot of you are going to see the rain on radar at noon tomorrow all around the area, and you're going to say, well, we're not going to clear out, so we're not going to be dealing with, severe weather. That's not the case. This warm, humid air is going to surge in here regardless of if our rain ends or not, and we will have enough fuel to support severe weather here locally. Doesn't mean we all see it, all right? But again, everything's going to be set up tomorrow to be able to produce that. And just notice that surge, though. We go from 39-degree dew point to 2 hours later, it's humid. Like first time this year, it'll be humid. When you get a dew point above 65, you're feeling it. You're sweating, and we'll be sweating outside for a couple hour period there. All right. And JP, yeah, I appreciate that. He says, you're the only one that gives full attention to Northwest Indiana. Yeah, I mean, some of these pages focus on, there's a lot of pages that focus on all of Indiana, the Midwest, there's the guy out west that's trying to take over weather services, and he's doing like chunks at a time. And then that same guy was like drinking online last night with his followers. It's just so bizarre. There's so much bizarre stuff out there. But that's why Region Weather started. I don't even know how long ago I started it. But I was the chief, and JP, you know this, but for those that don't, I was the chief meteorologist at Lakeshore Public Television in Maryville, and then they decided to end their news broadcasts. They focus more on radio, and so I'm like, well, where do I be a meteorologist? So I went down to Georgia, and then we came up to Cleveland, all right, where I'm currently a senior meteorologist in the morning, and I kept the region weather page going the whole time because I noticed that. I'm like, well, who's going to cover Northwest Indiana weather? Because Chicago doesn't. We would have lake effect snow in Porter County. I'd be doing live shots out in Valpo with, blinding snow and 12 inches on the ground. And Chicago's covering, the flurries that they have up along the lakefront. And, so that's why Region Weather started, just to give you a little history. We've kept it going ever since. And obviously, this has been my life and hobby outside of a main job. And sometimes I can't be with you guys during severe weather, especially if it's at midnight, because I have to be up at 2 a.m. All right. I do the morning show. But I'm telling you, I do everything possible to be with you guys. And again, I appreciate that. Jeff, if we find any more sponsors, you'll be able to upgrade the sexy radar. That's awesome. Jeff, we'll hold off on that for now. I like your comment though. That's funny. Pearl says, wow, humidity. Can't believe you have to use that word this soon. Yeah. And Pearl, that's why, tomorrow is something that we need to be, keeping an eye on, because this humidity is going to be very summer-like around here. There's going to be lots of fuel for those storms tomorrow. Okay. Oh, Mary, my daughter-in-law is due tomorrow. Praying my new grandson can hold off until after Wednesday. Boy, they might have a nice story. They could name him Storm or Thunder or something like that. Sounds like an old American Gladiator. I hope I don't date myself on that, but I used to watch that show. It was great. All right. Steve, thanks for joining us, Steve. Steve says, for everyone's sake, I hope wind stays low tomorrow. We have so many houses. I know. The tree damage, especially in the Valparaiso area, there are other areas that get hit hard, but my goodness, the tree damage is off the charts from that system. That wind was just so incredible. Daniel says, way back to Lakeshore News. You would say that any further than 3 days is guessing. I would say that, Daniel. Daniel, you used to send pictures of your grill covered in snow. I remember that. Yes, Daniel, that's a great question. So, and I was just talking to someone that was doing some housework on our house the other day about this. Our forecasts are much more accurate than back in the day in terms of how long we can go with it being accurate. I so here's the deal. 5 day forecast is pretty good. It depends on the setup. If there's a really tricky frontal boundary where we're right on the line of something, that gets a little tricky. That's the only thing that would throw a 5 day forecast off. But we can go 5 days out now pretty accurately. And then we can actually do 10 days right now in no trends. And so the weather is the part that's a little bit more inaccurate in terms of like when the rain starts, when it rains, if it's rain, snow. That gets a little bit more inaccurate days 7, 8, 9, 10. But temperatures are pretty darn accurate 7 through 10 days. So, next week's cold air, we can see that coming. We've got good ideas on numbers behind it, all that stuff. But things have changed a lot. Now, where is a meteorologist needed versus an app? Is it the apps that are helping us? It's not. A lot of the computer data does help us for sure. But in terms of the apps, what the apps are doing are just spilling out whatever the model data is. So if the models put out all the numbers, 4 times a day on the global models, they'll put out all the conditions that it thinks is going to happen 4 times a day. And your app is taking that raw data and putting it out on your phones, all right? So you can see some wild changes on your apps with those apps feeding that raw data. What we do as meteorologists, or some of us, what I do as a meteorologist, is I'll look at all the trends, I'll go over all the models, I'll come up with my forecast. And the thing you'll notice about a forecast from a meteorologist is it doesn't change very much. It shouldn't. You go over the 7 to 10 day trend and numbers don't change. If I were to post a 7 day forecast every day, Daniel, the numbers would pretty much carry over. There might be a 1 or 2 degree difference every day, but they should carry over if you're a good meteorologist. Meanwhile, phone apps and all the apps have big fluctuations because that's what the data is doing. But we can look at the models if you're experienced enough, and we could say, all right, the Euro today is much colder tomorrow versus what it was, or 10 days from now versus what it was saying yesterday. Based on experience, I usually see it bounce back, or based on experience, I'm going to go 4 degrees higher than this. There's a lot of thought that goes into making 10-day forecasts. And if you have a good meteorologist, you guys should track some of the local meteorologists. If you have a good one, those numbers won't change very much as they get closer. So great question on that. Yeah, Ruth, for sure. So duratio and a bow echo, those terms are absolutely correct, Ruth. Great job on that. So she says, can you explain the difference between a duratio and a bow echo? So a bow echo, Ruth, is just part of a line of thunderstorms. So if a line of thunderstorms is coming in and you see a part bow out, that's a bow echo. It's a part of a system. And that means you have strong gusty winds kind of gushing out and you can get damaging winds. We saw a couple bow echoes move through within that line that came through on Sunday. A duratio is a much bigger complex. Typically, we get duratios in the summer months when we have the ring of fire pattern that we call it, where you have 90 and 100-degree heat in the plains, and then you have kind of in an arc, and you get those storms that develop on the low-level jet out in the plain states that pop in Iowa. Those huge storms I'm talking about that fire up at night in Iowa, and then those complexes roll east and they go along that ridge. It's a summer setup. That's usually when we see duratios, because you get these living, breathing complexes of storms that have a bow echo literally on the front end of it, but they roll. And I don't remember offhand, it's something I could look up, but a duratio is classified as a storm system that produces wind damage over a certain amount of miles, maybe over 1,000 miles, I'm not sure, or goes for a certain number of hours. And that happens in the summertime, all right, usually in the summertime. With these events, like the storms that produce all the wind damage on Sunday, that went across the state, sure, but it kind of fizzled as it went in Ohio. It's a different setup, and so that's the difference between the two. JP, good. Daniel, I see your comment. Great question, though. All right, couple more, and then I got to hit the bed here. It's my bedtime. It's my sleepy time. JP says the area traditionally thought of as Tornado Alley doesn't seem to get as many as you think, even though Kansas, Oklahoma are still hotspots. Yeah, that's it, JP. It's interesting, and again, I don't want to get into the climate change debate and all that. I mean, we are warming. Is it natural? Is it not? That's where my debate stops. I have my opinions, but there's that. But anyway, in terms of the warming, we are warming up, and we've got warmer average temperatures heading up. A lot of that has to do with cities and the fact that we're building cities around a temperature gauge that was out in the middle of a cornfield before, which would cool down at night. The city's pavement holds heat. So there's that. But as the climate changes, JP, we are seeing a shift, and we're seeing a shift in the pattern in terms of where Tornado Alley is. We are getting, to me, what seems to be severe weather any month of the year now. I mean, we get severe storms with tornadoes at times in November. We've had big systems in December before. January, not so much. February, not a whole lot. But you get the idea. Tornado Alley has shifted a little bit. And the last two seasons, especially, we've seen a lot of action in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and even up in Michigan with tornadoes. And so, I mean, back in the day, yeah, it used to be Kansas up towards Missouri and Oklahoma and Texas and Arkansas and all those states. I used to watch Weather Channel specials on it. But now it's pretty much everywhere across the Great Lakes and the Midwest. And so even more reason to be weather aware now as we go through time. Jeff asked a good question. Are the radar models that you use accessible by the public? Yeah, Jeff, for sure. Yeah, everything I use is accessible. So the website that I use here, I just like the look of it. They all give the same data, but I like I pick and choose the looks that I like. This is College of DuPage, so you can search that and go through all the models up top. This one that I use is Weather Bell. This is a paid one. It's got a lot of information for me as a meteorologist that you might not need as, someone who's, not doing this for a career. This one, again, is a paid one, Weather Bell. And then that's pretty much all I use for these broadcasts. Pivotal Weather is another good one. They've got nice looking graphics, but you have to pay for that if you want some of the additional data. And then in terms of radar apps, I prefer Radar Scope. Radar Omega is really good too, but I prefer Radar Scope. That's a paid one as well. It's not too expensive. It's like maybe $10 a year or something. I don't know what I pay for that, but those are all accessible to the public. Some of them, again, you have to pay for, but there's, you can become a meteorologist. Well, you can become a meteorologist has the degree with it. I mean, you can certainly become that, but you can really get into weather and really start to know your stuff just by listening to people that are speaking about it. I like to teach, so hopefully a lot of you have picked up nuggets over the years with me in terms of teaching stuff. I grew up watching a local meteorologist, Tom Skilling. I don't know if you've heard of him. He and I had the same agent at one point, and then, anyway, there's that. But anyway, Tom, I grew up watching Tom Skilling, and would watch his 10-minute forecast because they gave him like 10 minutes on there. And what you do is you pick up nuggets from that, and you learn through hearing someone. And I also grew up watching Jim Cantori when he was younger on the Weather Channel, right? And I'll still watch Cantori and some folks that I trust, and just the way they analyze storms and all that. And so, if there's someone on here that has kids that are interested in weather, or if there's an adult, it's not too late to learn stuff. If you're interested in weather, you can pick up on stuff, by reading books, but by more importantly, watching stuff nowadays and listening just to the speak of meteorology. I did that for a long time before I became a meteorologist. And I remember writing down the things that I didn't like that meteorologists would do that kind of drove me nuts, and the things that I liked. And I tried to emulate the things that I liked, and I tried to get rid and not do the things that I didn't like. I remember when I first started at Lakeshore, I was so awkward on air. I would say out there all the time. So I would say it's 32 degrees out there and 32 degrees in Porter County out there. Like, I just kept saying it. I'm like, stop. But some pet peeves that I have are meteorologists that put question marks on the 7-day forecast. You're the meteorologist. You're supposed to tell me, and you're giving me a question mark. That doesn't help, right? I don't like the fact that we have to tell you about the time change. I just don't understand why. Why do I have to tell you to change your clock forward? Like, it doesn't make sense. Thank goodness everything's automated now. But there's just some weird things. In astronomy, I'm not an astronomer. There are a lot of meteorologists that love astronomy and post about that stuff. I got away out of college without taking astronomy. I took chemistry and physics and upper level math, but I didn't take astronomy. So I don't know anything more about the stars and planets than you do. I Google everything before I put it out, all right? And I've shared that before. And so it's funny on the news, our producers sometimes will give me an astronomy story and they know I hate it. So they just laugh, and I laugh too. But my viewers on TV, and then you guys too, know that I'm not a huge astronomy thing. I think it's fascinating, but it's a totally different science. It is, and it's complex, and there's that. So there you go. Yeah, Jeff Skilling was a Chicago staple. Absolutely, he's such a great guy. I would go to news conferences when I worked at Lakeshore. I would go to the National Weather Service conferences with him, and chum it up with him. He's just such a great guy for sure. Cassie says, "Why are all the other meteorologists so cocky? Hate all the other info and update." Yeah, well, Cassie, I appreciate that. They get so mad if you ask questions. It's there's just and I don't get this at my station now, but I've had it at stations in the past, and I know it exists. People are told all the time in news, the general public will say like, "You're great," or "You're good," and "You're that," and I just love you," and all that stuff. And you guys give me so much praise, I get it, but it depends on where that person is rooted. And I'm just going to share this with you. I'm rooted in Christ. All right, I am a Christ follower, and I'm as humble as can be. I understand that all this is a gift and it's a blessing, and I'm very thankful with where God put me, not just with my TV job, but with region weather. I pray about region weather every night. I do. I pray that I can reach people that need to be reached. I can calm anxiety that needs to be calmed. And all that being said, is that's where I'm rooted. All right. I know who my maker is, and I know that I am nothing without my maker. So that being said, I don't think some TV people have that belief, and that's sad, but they think it's all about them, and they get annoyed by stuff like that, and they're cocky with stuff like that. And I'm not, all right, because again, this isn't my show. I'm along for the ride, and I'm very appreciative of each and every one of you. So there you go. So that's kind of my take on it, on why other meteorologists are so cocky. There are a lot of great ones out there. There really are. But there are also some, and there are some news folks that are just so full of themselves because they've been told how great they are their whole life, and it went through their head, unfortunately. And some folks are just like that way. So there's that. Brittany, amen. All right. Yeah, JP and saying James Spann. Yeah. I actually did an internship with James Spann. Isn't that crazy? But so I started, and I'm really going off on the rail here. I'm sorry for you folks that are hanging on. This is inappropriate. But I got a full ride to run track and cross country down in Alabama. All right. I had a connection down there, and it was NCAA Division I, so we had the opportunity to run against big schools and stuff like that. So I was a runner, and it was in Birmingham, and James Spann in Birmingham, and so I got set up with him and got to do an internship with him. He's amazing. ABC 3340 is amazing as well, and he is the name down there, and I just love the way he handles haters. He's just such a good guy, and what I learned from him, he's one of the ones I learned from too. What I learned from him is during tornado coverage, he calls out like every location in the path of that, and he'll get down to the nitty gritty. If you guys don't know him, he gets down to like a corner. He'll say, "Oh, this is by the BP gas station next to the food mart where they sell slushies for 99 cents. You need to be in a safe place." He goes down to street level in terms of his coverage, and he just knows everything. It's unbelievable. So good stuff. There's that. Heather, absolutely. Thanks for that. I knows that. Appreciate the testimony for sure. I'm not scared to share my testimony. A platform's a platform, but again, I'm here for that. Paul Goddard, the suspenders are on. Yes. Yeah, he's a big suspender guy. Paul, is he still wearing those? I haven't seen him in suspenders in a long time. I'm thinking maybe he's ditching the suspenders. Anyway. All right, guys, I'm going to let you go. So tomorrow's going to be a long day. We'll be with you. Tonight, when you go to bed, again, do not have anxiety or worry. I know so many of you carry that with you. Don't have it when you go to bed tonight. We are going to have some storms tonight. We're going to have some heavy rain, some hail, and some lightning. There's not a tornado threat tonight. All right, please sleep, okay? Sleep through it. If you have dogs that are sensitive to lightning and thunder, might want to put the thunder jacket on or whatever you call it now. For them when you go to bed, because there's going to be some thunder around with this warm front. All right. And then tomorrow we're going to start with some rain around in the morning. All right. Some rain and some leftover storms. It'll probably take its time clearing. But then once we clear, sometime late morning through midday, the warm front's going to come in and our temperatures and dew points are going to surge. So we're going to go from kind of cool outside in the morning in the 40s to all of a sudden we'll shoot up into the 60s with muggy, humid air. Once you feel that muggy, humid air, it's game on. Doesn't mean we're all going to see severe weather tomorrow, but that's when that capability really ramps up, all right? So I'm looking at a window tomorrow, anytime after lunchtime, but especially into the afternoon, into the early evening, depends on when things clear, but that's when our storm threat is, okay? And we don't need to worry about that. Just make sure at that time you're connected with a source, okay? We will go live if there's any warnings. We'll have forecasts out there tomorrow morning, but just make sure that you know that that's the time to be weather aware tomorrow afternoon, okay? And I would, if I were you, charge your devices tomorrow. Make sure everything's charged. A lot of you have been without power for a while, so make sure stuff is charged, okay? All right, respect the polygon. I see that. That's awesome. All right, so we'll see. Mike, I do agree with that. Yeah, I do agree with that. And I think the hesitancy on going higher with the Weather Channel's Torcon tomorrow, I think the hesitancy on that is because of basically the her model runs bringing the line of storm south, and then there's not much left up here. So we'll see what happens. All right, guys, have a great night. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule to join me. Again, I'm humbled by it. We'll keep you safe tomorrow. Just make sure you're connected, and we'll go from there. Okay? All right, talk to you soon.